All right. Hi, everybody. It's Mike and Joel here. Welcome to this episode of The Hero's Journey. I'm Joel Sadler, one of your co-hosts. My background is in digital marketing and business growth strategies. Been working on myself for a number of years. I'm really passionate about helping other people, active in the community, active in the conversation with people. I love these type of conversations and currently really driven to just create a safe space. One of my good friends and mentors talks about being safe, seen, and supported. And I often feel for men that we shy away from that unless we're drinking at times. And we're going to talk further about that today, where stuff just comes out. So I'm passionate about creating a safe space for us to hold conversations. And I'd like to introduce my really good friend, Mike, coach and mentor, who's been mentoring me over the last 6 months. And really helped me work through some of the stuff. I'll let Mike introduce himself now in terms of some of his key background.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, Michael Harris. I've been involved in coaching, speaking, studying human behavior, NLP, and all different facets of that for around 17 years. Been coaching and speaking in the area of direct selling for a long time, coaching teams, people in objection handling, sales, communication, mindset, before really niching into human behavior and helping business owners a lot around what's going on in their businesses, also with themselves, because obviously as a business owner, you are the visionary for the business and the business will only go as far as you can yourself. So I love helping uncover blind spots and helping people evolve to the next level. I've been doing that for a while now. So yeah, and it's been a pleasure working with you, my friend, and now doing this project together. So
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Brilliant. So today, we've got quite an interesting topic, which is the topic of alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that we often have a bit of a love-hate relationship with, and it's just got so many complexities when I think of that topic. Obviously it can be as simple as we want it to be, but it's also got many layers like an onion that I think relate to different areas of our life. So anyway, I would start off with a bit of a story and around why we're talking about this today. There's always a reason for our topics, and generally it's come from our personal experiences and those of those around us. For the last 15 years for me, I've drunk alcohol, and kind of in a way from every sort of side of the spectrum. I remember in high pressure work situations and business corporate situations finding myself, I'd say, self-medicating actually, and there was a bit of a running joke amongst some of the friends and people in that particular environment that's exactly what we were doing. It was so stressful and full on that you would go home and just have a drink, and that would range from a couple of beers through to a bottle of wine. And obviously, if you're depending on, you could feel a bit rough the next day, obviously, if you drank too much, but it was just a way of, at the time, de-stressing and just coping with the situation. However, what I've kind of learned a little bit more now after delving into the science, which we'll come into later, is that it actually probably was putting more fuel on the stress fire and creating more anxiety than actually, helping solve the issue, Yeah, so kind of gone from that experience and then right through the habit of having a couple of beers at night, and that was more in a more relaxed environment. But I'd do a hard day's work, and that might be outdoors or indoors. Generally, I'm behind a computer, but I'm an active character. I don't just sit there. I like to get outside in the garden and mow the lawns and just play with the kids. But a way to kind of relax and reward myself was to kind of go, okay, I've had a big day. I've achieved a lot. I'm going to celebrate and I deserve a beer, and there's a marketing slogan in New Zealand here that's, that goes like, that man deserves a insert brand. I'm not going to say the brand, but it's like a brand of beer,
Yeah.
And I bought into that, and it's a billboards and it's a joke. It's a running joke within my community, oh, that man deserves a beer, that man deserves a insert brand, and I'd bought into that and I was like, I deserve a beer. And then I deserve another one. And so I put one in the freezer to make it ice cold, or had one in the fridge and finish the first one, go and get the ice cold one from the freezer and just like enjoy it, But I found that I very quickly put on weight, unwanted weight. And also it wasn't that great for my skin. just that constant, if daily intake of alcohol. And I don't necessarily mean my face, my beauty. I just mean my overall skin was just getting drier. And, I think having coffee in there and alcohol on top of that was obviously dehydrated and my skin just started drying out. So I become conscious of that and nipped that in the bud. I think when I was self-medicating with the stress, I got to the point where I felt I was getting addicted to alcohol. And I didn't mention that, but I managed to sort of kind of go, okay, that's enough of that, and I'm glad I did because I actually felt like I was really desiring it. I may have almost become addicted to it, but I found myself craving that, and so that's when I was kind of, hang on, this is a bit too far. So I pulled out of that self-medicating stuff. But with the beers, I ended up actually just replacing it with a fizzy, no sugar water because I was like, well, what can I drink that I can enjoy that's cold, it's got no sugar in it, that's not going to put weight on? And I just found these cans of fizzy water that you can buy these days that are like, it's sugar free, it's just water with a bit of fruit juice added. And yeah, it doesn't sort of give the alcohol buzz, but it's actually refreshing, hydrating, fizzy, and for me it's kind of, I've just transitioned to that. It's like with the coffee, I removed milk out of that a while ago, like a few years ago now, and just drink black coffee now. And like once I find I've done it for a week or two, it kind of just becomes habit and the new kind of norm. So I don't feel like I need to drink a beer at night now. Just have a fizzy water if I want something different.
Mm.
Yeah, but I still use alcohol a lot to party. I go on trips with friends, I go to birthdays and all that sort of thing, and I never really had much of a handbrake there. I wouldn't go as far as like going into a coma and like falling asleep in a toilet sort of thing. But I'd always sort of find myself stumbling home or catching an Uber or whatever it was. And, like, last story is like going to a mate's birthday. I ended up actually locking myself out of my room in my undies because I was very drunk and, so funny things like that happen. But I think doing this work with you recently, I've really noticed that I have like quite a nice stable, consistent way of being, and like I'm learning, I'm growing, and all that sort of stuff. And I was actually finding that I'd noticed myself feeling at times a bit down and flat and then losing enthusiasm and passion for life. And I was kind of like, what the heck's going on? Like, why am I experiencing a bit of a roller coaster kind of thing here? And it wasn't like real highs and real lows. It was just sort of like middle, nice, like balanced, rational thinking. And then all of a sudden I'd have this low and it would take me like literally 3 to 4 days to kind of get out of it. And I'd find a week would almost go by and then we'd have another coaching session. I'd be like, mate, last week, well, this week's just been crap. I don't know what's going on. And what I actually realized was that I'd linked it back to alcohol when I'd have a big weekend away with the guys, which was a real fun trip. But like I'd drink a lot or I'd go to a birthday and get like trolleyed. And then I just found that the day after and the next few days after, I was just like really kind of flat and struggled to get back on the horse and struggled to maintain that, really healthy, empowered sense of being. Like I lost enthusiasm for life. I understand. I just didn't get suicidal. Didn't go that far, but I was just like, oh, I'll just do the bare minimum to get through the day, do the bare minimum as opposed to getting up and going, yeah, I'm going to nail it today. And like, this is
Mhm.
exciting. I'm interested in this and I can't wait for this to happen, which is my normal state. Yeah. So and then we obviously got talking about it. A couple of friends, you can talk about your situation soon, but obviously you've, decided to stop drinking alcohol a while ago. Another friend did it as well. And so I was sort of contemplating my relationship, observing you guys. And then we had a really powerful conversation about how, you asked me a question, why do I drink when I go to a party, or why do we as society do that? And then that left me thinking over a week, actually, I do that to I was using as a crux in a social situation, going to a big group of people. And, I don't know about other people, but I always feel a little bit anxious going to those situations. There's a lot of people there. You want to talk, you want to be funny, you want to join in the party and engage. And so the first thing I would do is literally go and find, where's the drink? Where's the first drink? Where's that beer I can buy? Or they're giving, there's a tab, great, I'll get a drink. And then I'd actually literally slam that one back quite fast to get the buzz on.
Yeah.
get my confidence going, and then I'll be bang, a bit of conversations and all that sort of stuff. And so, I think the conversation that we had around that, I really learned that I was actually using that as a crux. And I think for me, that then got me thinking, well, far out, like that's quite interesting and disempowering in a way too. Like, why do I need that as a crux to be able to turn up as me or turn up in that environment, in any social environment? And yeah, it's just got me thinking. And I haven't yet made the decision to, go cold turkey on it, but I'm really sort of unpicking and understanding the impact that alcohol does have in my life, which is quite, you'd have to say, I don't use it a lot, but I've noticed that it does throw me off track now when I consume a lot. And also, why am I even relying on this substance to do that? You know what I mean? And
Mm.
is it really fun? Is it really actually fun? I'm sort of starting to question that. I have fun with the people I'm with, but do I need the alcohol to have fun with them? The answer is probably no, but I'm still holding that in balance. Yeah, so that's why we're talking about it here, and this stuff's come up, and I think you've been through a similar journey, Mike. Do you want to speak a little bit to your journey and some of these? It's obviously a sort of long conversation, but we can tease it through and explore different pieces as we go. Well, I suppose the first question I got for you is, tell us a little bit about your relationship with alcohol over the years. And I'd say I've observed like a massive shift in you as a person over the last couple of years, especially,
Yeah.
and I've seen you grapple with alcohol, over the years as well. And the person you are now is just incredible. And I think you've even been getting comments from people like, "What have you done? What's changed?"
Mm.
So tell us a little bit about your journey with alcohol and where you are now with it, in the current space.
Oh yeah, it's a big one, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
if I go all the way back as you did, from a teenager, I wasn't an early drinker. I was a
Mm,
later drinker compared to some. I wasn't drinking at 13, 14, 15, doing that. I was into my
mm,
hunting with my dad and doing those things. And it was in my kind of late teens, 17, 18,
mm,
19. I got into obviously social drinking, especially here in New Zealand. And I know this is not just New Zealand, it's a kind of a Western thing, but it's really ingrained in us to go and drink as associated, anchored to, socializing, catch up
mm,
with some friends, have a beer, catch up with some friends, have a drink. And so we kind of don't realize unless we sit and look just how much society has anchored
mm.
alcohol to socializing in so many circles,
Yeah.
particularly the circles that I was in. And that was just what you did. You just had a drink when you went out. And so that was my primary use for it for a long time, was going and socializing. And then
Mm,
it was actually, this just came to me. It was living with a good buddy of mine, Nick. Yo, Nick, if you listen to this, I'll share this with you so you can have a laugh. But he moved in with me. This was in my mid-20s. Now, I only ever drank when we went out on a Friday, Saturday. And he came and lived with me and like flattered with me. And he would drink wine in the evenings on a weeknight. And I said to him, I remember saying, like, why are you having a drink in weeknights? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. We're not going anywhere, we're not going out.
mm,
And he's like, oh, just to chill out, just to relax. So I started doing that. And that was a slippery slope, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, I could have some wine in the weeknights as well. So
mm,
that habit started to build and form. And it just, for me, as I started getting successful in my business as well, it became, oh yeah, I just want to chill out at night. And so, and I attached chilling out and having some booze at night. And so I'd
mm,
do that a couple times. And primarily it was still going and socializing that I'd do that for. And then as things progressed and life carried on, and I started kind of really having some pain and so forth, I
mm,
definitely started to use wine as self-medication during the week,
mm,
particularly when I was not feeling the best inside a dynamic in a relationship and really out of touch with myself. And at the time, you don't really know this, but
mm,
I was really trying to avoid what was going on for me internally. And so,
mm,
sometimes I'd be drinking Pinot, like Pinot Noir, Central Otago Pinot Noir, which I absolutely loved,
mm,
4 or 5 nights a week during the week. And I could still function well. I wasn't getting messy drunk or angry or anything. I just easily drink a bottle of that a night, sometimes a little bit more. And I just, no problems. And obviously weight went on and, you don't function as well, but when you're in it, you just don't know, And
Mm.
so a couple of years ago, I also had a heart attack in 2021,
Mm.
which is a whole nother big story. But that then shook me out to go, okay, I can't, alcohol, is not good for that. And so
Mm.
that had me really stop for probably about 3 or 4 months. But what was really interesting is that when I stopped then, it was driven by the fear of doing harm to myself, the fear
Mm.
of dying, the fear of, what damage I could do. And so it was around that, but innately I already knew like it wasn't enough, funnily enough, it wasn't enough to have me go, I'm going to stop it. And
Right.
so after 3 or 4 months, it slowly crept back in, never to the same degree though that I had done, but
Yeah.
I wasn't drinking at home as much, but I would still drink when I'd go out and socialize. And so it was coming up almost 6 months ago now, 6 months in December, we're in November now, so about 3 or 4 weeks away, that I, after doing a lot of work on myself in this last year, and really getting in touch with myself and all my shadow parts, all the parts I had shame around, guilt around, and
Mm.
really getting into a deep space with myself.
Mm.
One of the last nights I drank in June, I almost got into an altercation with someone, and I
Right.
woke up the next day and I was feeling like shit. And I was just like, man, what the hell am I doing? And that, I'm better than this. Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I damaging myself? And when I look back over the years, I never felt congruent either. Like there was an inauthenticity for me being me and knowing what I knew, that I was
Mm.
still going and literally, this is how I see it, poisoning myself.
Mm.
Um, and so I just that day on that Sunday decided that's it. I'm done with alcohol. And so it's been about five and a bit months now. And I have got a completely different feeling and association to it.
Mm.
I don't need it anymore, and I
Yeah.
don't want it anymore. I don't desire it anymore. So when I look at now and why I stopped, it's
Mm.
not the same as it was after the heart attack, which was based around fear of what could
Mm.
happen. It's an innate, I don't want this anymore. It's no longer serving who I am now.
Right.
And I would rather stay connected to myself than
Yeah.
go and drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And I absolutely don't miss it. It's like I never ever thought I'd arrive at this point that I'm actually at now. I actually,
Yeah.
over the years, had gone, I'm going to go off it. I should stop. And I thought, man, will I ever get to that point? I just thought it was kind of like a hopeless battle.
Mm. Mm.
And I never believed I could get to where I am. And I'm so grateful that I'm in this place now,
Mm.
because I just, as I said, don't desire it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And like I can reiterate that point. And, I've known you for a number of years, and I remember, consuming a bottle of wine each and attempting to keep up with you on the second one multiple times and
Mm.
failing. But I
Yeah.
think the the point there is we both spoke a little bit about self-medicating, and I think that's the key that I'm learning, as I'm willing to self-reflect and peel back the layers of what actually makes me tick and why I tick, and
Yeah.
some of the trauma and pain, and we all got that stuff, right? And so I'm not, just for the record, I'm not talking about this from a victim point of view. I'm talking about this from a realist, from a reality point of view, from the DNA, the stuff we inherit through our DNA, the stuff that we see growing up modeled to us, the life experiences we have. If I don't have the tools to process that and heal that or understand what the hell is going on, then I'm carrying that pain or carrying that hurt, and it's
Mm.
really easy to self-medicate. I mean, that's just, it's smart. I actually think it's a smart thing. It's the way that we as humans respond or react to a situation, is to go, well, what, is going to make me feel better? And that's where I was going with the self-medication thing, to sort of sit down, after a I'm talking pretty stressful times. I'd let people go, make people redundant in some situations, and grapple with financial side of things, like some pretty big stressful decisions. And I know other friends that grapple with that and have grappled with the same kind of conversation we're having.
Mm.
But what I realized was that was just one way of dealing with stress. I could have dealt with it other ways, but what I
But
know now
at
is
the time,
at the time,
that's
yeah,
what you knew
yeah.
and the
And it
resources you
was
had, right?
acceptable too. And I
Yeah,
think that's
that's
kind of your
it.
point about,
Yeah.
the social scene. It's acceptable to have a drink. Like, how
Mhm.
do we deal with stress in the corporate world? It's acceptable to have a drink. Like, I had a client that was a really well-known winemaker, and we were looking at wine sales during COVID times, and they went through the roof. Like, there was one industry that did really, 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 really well during lockdown times, because how do people deal with the stress and the
Yeah.
grief of getting locked
Yeah.
down and people getting sick and people dying? It's all, let's have a drink. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's how society, we self-medicate, and
Just on that, if I was
yeah,
jump in there real quick,
yeah, yeah,
I think it's important to say that, like, everyone's got their poison, so to speak,
yeah.
and look, if for some people, alcohol's not a bad thing. Like, it's okay
Mm,
if they want to go have a drink, and I don't judge people if they want to drink or do any of that. So it's not
yeah.
where I come from with this either. I think alcohol is one of the worst drugs that are out there if you look at the effects, and we can go into that and what it does to us. But look, if someone has a glass of wine or a beer or two or whatever, and that works for
Mm,
them and
mm,
they're happy and it doesn't affect them, perfect, awesome, go do your thing. But for me personally, it just wasn't serving me. It was something that I realized and always knew just
mm,
wasn't right for me. And I was using it as a crutch. And
mm,
it was really a form, and this is what I think it is for a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people,
mm,
it's a
mm.
form of disassociation. It's a form of putting a band-aid over some wounds,
Yeah.
over trauma that they're not wanting to deal with or they're not conscious of,
Mm,
and they are using it to just
mm.
tap out for a period of time.
Yeah.
And now look, there's lots of different ways that we use to disassociate. Some people will use exercise. Some people will reading a book. Some people will use doing another hobby like painting or whatever. We have these
Mm,
different ways of just taking ourselves out of our current reality.
yeah.
And again, like, so we need these different strategies. However, I realized there was a lot more healthy ones than going
Yeah.
and, what I then started to realize was poisoning myself, because
Yeah.
essentially that's what it's doing.
Yeah.
Um, and when we talk about this is great, this is a huge topic, but when we talk about the lockdowns and what happened, it's no coincidence that they left alcohol shops and liquor stores open,
Mm,
because people would have probably gone up in arms, a lot of them, but
mm,
also it would wake them up a lot more. Whereas when they were able to drink alcohol, it kept their vibration low
mm,
and it kept them docile and dumbed down, because that's what it does. That's what booze does. And so
mm,
it's
mm,
such a control mechanism. And this is why I also think, from a big macro perspective, why it's been kept so easily accessible,
mm,
marketed so heavily, and so much money's profited from it, because it is easy to consume, it is marketed beautifully, and it keeps us low
mm,
in vibration. And
mm.
so that, to me, from a bigger perspective, for what it does to humanity, is not really ideal in the way that it's
Mm.
used. Not all the time. With some people, as I said, if they have one or two, fine, go do that. But the binge
Yeah.
drinking culture, or just the continual drinking, is not good for
Mm,
anyone.
mm. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. 100% agree with everything you've said. And I think, just to make that clear distinction as well, I think the part that I'm learning about is, it's like anything in life, to excess, it's damaging, like, say, crafting a beer and enjoying that experience and enjoying the taste of it and the flavor of it and the whole thing is
Mm,
is awesome. I think I'm personally not into that, but I enjoy a nice craft beer, the taste of it, or a wine. So I think for me at the moment, I'm sort of working out: do I go cold turkey, or do I still have a nice wine with dinner and that sort of stuff? But then as soon as you get into the kind of marketing side and ask the question, well, why is it that way? You start pulling at a few threads and start going, well, I mean, yeah, it's quite interesting. The thing I wanted to come back to that I thought was really powerful, you mentioned before though, like, was the disassociation. So when my dad died in 2005, and um, I it was a shock. Like, he just died of a heart attack and didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I mean, I was having dreams of rushing to the airport to I missed the flight to see him off. I rushed to the train station there, jumped on the train and had left, and I hadn't had a chance to say goodbye. I was having dreams like that. So that's what was going on, obviously, in my mind and the grieving process. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him, and I was drinking rum and coke, or bourbon and coke, and
Yeah.
smoking cigars every night. And I was just numbing that pain. And that was another situation where I felt I was getting addicted to it. So I, managed to stop. But I think the key part though is what we're really saying is that alcohol itself is not necessarily bad. It's the way that we use it. And I think that's what I'm talking about is if this conversation is opening people's minds to kind of like, well, actually, hang on a minute, and they're, contemplating or have been already contemplating their relationship with alcohol. Like, what's the alternative? Like, how does someone, if they're using alcohol to self-medicate for a situation that they can't face or trauma or whatever, like
Yeah.
what are some like ways that people can sort of heal themselves or actually begin that journey of finding an alternative or
Yeah.
trying something else on? Like I talk about trying a jacket on, like for you, for example, like was it simply the fact that you realize that actually, hang on, it was that moment for you that you're like, actually, this is not serving me. I almost got into an altercation, like, and you just went cold turkey. But what I mean, I suppose what got you to that point where you could kind of make that decision?
Yeah. So that, I mean, it's a lifelong journey, right? Like
Mm,
if we look at it, it was the culmination of all those years that had me arrive at that point.
mm,
But if I kind of look at that through the lens of what I've been doing over the last, well, a long time I've been working on myself, but particularly in this last year
mm,
of having gone through a breakup and then really also going into myself and dealing with a lot of my own woundings and shames on a deeper level, doing a lot of meditation and integration work of these parts that I'd not made peace with and not kind of integrated and healed with.
yeah.
And as I started doing that and started valuing myself more, appreciating myself more, all aspects of me, not just part of me, but all aspects, and making a home for all parts of me. Until I started doing that, I wasn't ready. And so it
Mm,
was really, I say coming home to myself and loving as much as this people say, oh, it's cliche or it's, they don't understand or it's corny or whatever. I
mm,
was truly loving myself. For me, it was a self-worth thing
right.
because this was just my narrative, right? This
Mm,
is
mm,
my
mm,
perspective, and I'm not saying you need to adopt this, but
mm, mm,
I got to the point where I was like, okay, what am I doing when I drink alcohol? This is what I kind of got myself to lead up to this stopping. Is well, one, it's a poison. Wrap it any way you want to, it's a poison. It's ethanol at the end of the day,
mm,
which is a poison. It's marketed, flavored differently and got different branding on, and it's made to look this and that. And oh, if you buy this particular whiskey, this is $250 a bottle. So this is extra special. It's still fucking ethanol. So
mm,
it's like just, we get pulled into this marketing of like, and then when we do that and we buy this nice bottle of wine or this nice whiskey, well, then we get the old serotonin
mm,
that's released in the system because it's that whole status
mm,
chemical that makes us go, oh, yeah, I've got that. And then you have the alcohol, which then gives us a dopamine release, but only for a short period of time, only for like maybe a couple of drinks, 3 or 4 drinks. And so I'd feel good. I'd go, okay, well, hang on, I'm spending money on a poison. I'm then, having a couple of drinks, you get that kind of euphoric, like, and that dopamine hit for the first short period of time. You then continue to chase that dopamine hit, but by that stage, you're not going to get that back again. You've depleted that. And
mm,
so you keep having another drink, associating, thinking, well, I'm going to keep this buzz going. I'll keep this buzz growing, but it doesn't.
mm,
And so then I continue to poison myself. I'm paying more money to poison myself. Sometimes you get to the point where you don't recollect things. You do silly things at night. You wake up the next day. You then feel like shit, at least for a day if you've had a night out, like a decent night out.
mm,
So I'd feel like crap. My vibration would be low. I'd be disconnected from my higher self, disconnected from source. I would be feeling off. I would then make poor food choices for the next day, craving fat and craving different things to try and deal with that.
mm,
Um, so then you make bad choices. I then berate and beat myself up for making those choices. I'd beat myself up for the fact that I'd gone out that night, and then I'm not operating at the best I can be for the next day, sometimes 2 days. Your vibration's off and your motivation's off. And as a father as well, I'm not showing up the best version I can for my son. And so I started looking at all this going, well, wow, like, what am I doing? You hijack your liver for 2 to 3 days because the liver has to go and process the alcohol, process the poison first. It would interrupt my sleep because the liver kicks in around 2, 3 a.m. in the morning to start processing that. So then I'd wake up and have broken sleep as well, because you can't sleep properly when the liver kicks in to try and do that. Hijacking the liver for 2 or 3 days, not able to burn body fat and use the system, your body properly, meant that I was putting weight on as well. And so I wasn't then operating the best for the next 2 or 3 days. I'd maybe put exercise off for at least 2 days because I'm not feeling right. Or if I did go to the gym, I couldn't operate at my full. So then you're looking at like 2 or 3 days after that night out that you're not operating at your best. Then you kind of come right after 3 days, and then it'd be almost coming up to the weekend again. You start again. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing to myself? What other organism, apart from the human species, willfully goes and invests time, energy, and money? I know other organisms don't have money, but they pay to go poison themselves. And I was just like, okay, this is just ridiculous. When I broke it down like that, I was like, what the hell am I doing to myself? And I was like, I actually love myself more than this now. When I got to the underlying issues where I was shaming myself and I was beating myself up, or I was disassociating from these pains, and I actually finally leant into those pains and I dealt with them, and I healed my perception around those pains. That was it. I just was like, okay, when I kind of broke all that down like that, I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore to myself. That was it.
Wow.
Done. And so and since that moment, there was a short, maybe a month, because I'm a social beast. I love people. That's why I do the work I do. You know, my background was in personal training, which I did for 7 years. And why did I get into that? I loved helping people. And so I migrated from the physical helping people and talking about nutrition and physical, to the mind and the emotional state.
Yeah.
And so I loved going out, catching up with friends. And so there was a period where I'd be like, I'd feel weird, because you'd go out and then all of a sudden you're sober and everyone else around you is like, you know, laughing a lot earlier and like losing their inhibitions. And you know, I felt like I didn't want to dance at first because it felt weird. And like, you just realize like, holy shit, how much I was relying on lowering those inhibitions through alcohol, particularly when you're surrounded by a whole lot of other people. So there was maybe a month where I'd be like, far out, this feels odd. I don't know if I like this. I'm going out, I'm not drinking. And then I realized, like, I now just drink soda water, like sparkling water with lemon. And the funny thing I realized is that as long as I've got something in my hand, this is where the habitual stuff comes in that we do to ourselves. It's that whole process of having something because everyone else is having something, and it's all subconscious a lot of the time.
Right.
So I just drink soda water now. And after that month of going, this feels odd and weird, now I'm like, I go out and I'm like, you know, I look at some of the weird states that some of these people get, and I'm like, God, thank God that's not me anymore doing that. And, you know, I'll have someone ask me the same question 3 or 4 times in the space of half an hour. And I'm like, geez, you know, that was definitely me, you know, and they get messy. And then it might get to 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning, like, oh, let's keep going, let's go somewhere else. And I'm thinking, like, I've had this happen, I'm going home now and I can drive home or whatever. And I'm just like, God, I'm grateful that I'm not doing that to myself anymore. And then I get to wake up in the morning if I've had a late night because I've still gone and socialized because I didn't want to stop that. That was my fear of missing out on that. I can go home, I may be a little tired in the morning, but I get up and I tell you what, I feel great and I can go carry on with the day. And I didn't realize until I had stopped just how much I was feeling like shit the next day because of alcohol. It was just, it was crazy. So, yeah, that's kind of how that was the process and how I did a lot of meditation, integration work on myself as I healed these parts of me and came to peace with these parts of me and accepted them. Then just broke down as I did that whole, what I perceived I was doing to myself by drinking alcohol. And that was it. I just was done.
Yeah, awesome. That was just the realization of just breaking it down. And I think, that's a powerful exercise in itself, isn't it? It's just deconstructing a scenario and then really just looking at the facts of it.
Yeah.
I think for me, what comes up at the moment of, weighing up stopping drinking, and I've shared this with you, is the fear of abandonment. Like, if I go to a social, all of a sudden, I'm one of those guys that doesn't drink, and there's that fear of like, people will think that I think I'm arrogant or above them, or just it's my own shit, obviously, but it's that being fear of abandoned by my friends,
Yeah.
and you're not part of the gang anymore because you're not drinking or whatever. How did you, deal with that fear,
Yeah.
and or did you go through that? And
Yeah.
does it come up? Does
It's
anyone give
funny
you
that, isn't
crap
it?
about it, or like how?
Yeah, it's funny that, like, I'd have some go, oh, you're going to start drinking again. Hey, when are you going to start drinking again? I'm like, no, I'm not. Oh,
Yeah.
you will. Yeah, you will. Nah, I won't. And,
Mm.
or do you want to drink? And most of my friends have been pretty good. They're not going, oh, why don't you have a drink? Go on. They're not really doing that. I've got a good circle of friends who are pretty conscious
Mm.
and, get the occasional comment, whatever. But one thing I have noticed,
Mm.
and I felt the same too, man. It's like, oh, do you want to come out? I don't think you're drinking anymore. So that's more kind of what it would be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because, it's like, well, if you're not drinking, you're not going out. And,
Mm.
it was more of that.
Right.
But when I've
Interesting.
gone out
Mm.
now and people are like, oh, do you want a drink? And I go, oh, I'll just grab a water, thanks. Or no, I'm not drinking. They're like, really? Oh, how come?
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
like, what's wrong with you? Or how come you're not doing that? And
Mm.
then I'd have the conversations with people and I'd say, look, I've just chosen not to drink. It's just, it doesn't serve me anymore.
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
done with that now. And the amount of people that actually have been going, oh, wow, that's awesome.
Mm.
I've been having this same conversation with myself or thinking the same. I want to
Wow.
give it up, or
Yeah.
I've been thinking that, but I just can't. I just can't do it. And like, how did you do it? So these are
Interesting.
conversations that I've actually been having that made me realize there's a lot of people struggling with it
Mm.
that just don't know what to do, or they don't know how to
Mm.
do it. And they're stuck
Mm.
in the same thing that I was stuck in, with just
Mm.
slightly different perceptions or
Mm.
whatever their narrative is, they're kind of in the same place.
Yeah.
And so I've definitely noticed a shift in a lot of people in that regard. And if I look at,
Mm.
I know what I'm seeing with society as a whole, with all these changes that are happening,
Mm.
and consciousness is definitely growing and increasing.
Yeah.
A lot of people are now questioning some of these things that aren't serving them, some of these things that are
Mm.
causing themselves injury or damage.
Mm.
And they're just realizing that this is not right for me anymore. So I think
Mm.
collectively there's kind of a big shift in that
Yeah.
direction at the moment.
100%. I'd agree with that. I was looking at an investment opportunity the other day in a brand that's releasing low alcohol and or no alcohol mixes,
Yeah.
pre-mixes, and it seems to be a niche or a space that's getting a lot of traction at the moment. I'm
Yeah.
just scratching the surface with my research, but it's quite interesting, and that signifies a sort of shift in society when a product offering comes to market that's an alcohol alternative or a reduced alcohol alternative or just, a fizzy water kind of thing,
Yeah.
it's quite interesting. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that we're living in a time where people are really questioning everything really in their relationship with everything, with society, with structures, with each other, with alcohol, food, exercise. It's a
Yeah.
pretty cool time to be alive. And I think even the fact that we're sitting here having this conversation about alcohol is quite interesting.
Oh, look, like I said, I never thought I'd
Mm.
be having this conversation on this side of the fence ever.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for those of you that are questioning, can I do it? And you've been struggling with it, honestly,
mm,
I was in that camp of going, I just never ever thought it would be something that I'd have outside of my life anymore because it was
mm,
just that ingrained in it. And so
yeah,
my message to anyone that is questioning that or wondering, how can I do it or can I do it? You absolutely can. It's just first getting really real with yourself and not shaming yourself and
mm,
just going, "Now, why does it make sense I am where I am right now and what I'm doing?" And
mm,
start there so that you're not deflecting or disassociating from the reality. And then once you can kind of sit and own where you are, then you can go to work on that from there and start to make different choices. Um,
mm,
but yeah, I just definitely didn't think I was going to be in that place. I've been out and about now. It's interesting. I look at photos of myself back when I was drinking. Holy shit. I've had comments from a lot of people now. Your eyes are clearer. Like
mm,
your eyes look wider.
yeah,
There's a bloatedness and an inflammation that I can now see on others. And when I look back at the photos of myself, I could see it on myself. And you can almost pick up and feel the pain that people are carrying around, which is then manifesting physically because of what they're doing to themselves. And I can see pictures of myself when I did, and I'm just like, far out. I just don't look anything kind of like I am. And it's not just a physical thing, it's a vibrational thing. When you vibrate at a lower energy or a lower frequency, people feel that. And when you actually stop all of that, you just vibrate higher. Like you've got more life energy, more life force. And I've been out and about. I remember I was in Hamner a while back, which is a small kind of little place outside of Christchurch here with hot springs and that. And there was a stag's do, and all these guys are sitting around as they do, and like, oh, let's have another shot, have another shot. And I just observed them in that, and I was just like, man, I could just feel the pain in some of those people. And as I said, the inflammation, and they're red, and they're just see they're doing it because it's what they know to do, but you could see that they're not happy, they're not happy within themselves. And so you can kind of see things from a different perspective now that I've stepped outside of that. It's interesting. And again, I was inside myself too back when I was doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, well, thanks so much for sharing your story, Mike. And yeah, I'm definitely testament to that energy thing, and that's that energy state being impacted by a lot of drinking, and that's why we're having this conversation, because I observed it and realized it's like that light switch going. That actually after I partake in excessive consumption, that I'm screwed for the next, not just the hangover the next day, but actually my well-being, I suppose, for want of a better word, for the 3 or 4 days. And I don't know if it's something that always happened to me, or it's my age that I'm observing it. I'm not quite sure why, or maybe it's just my eyes are a bit more open and I'm a bit aware now to what's sort of going on.
Well,
I think it's
if
a
I
bit of everything.
can, if I can share what I've observed with you, because we've been working together how long now? Like on a one-on-one basis, about 6 months, 7 months. Around 7 months or so, right?
Yeah.
And as you've gone deeper into yourself, you've uncovered blind spots, and like what you've done is really inspiring. It's been inspiring to be part of that journey, as you've really come to love and accept yourself more and understand yourself on a deeper level. And as you do that, you can't help but change the lens and the way that you start to see different habits, because who you're becoming and being is different to what you were before doing that. So you can't look at some of those same habits the same way anymore, because how you see yourself and therefore the world changes. And so it's impossible to see it in exactly the same way and choose those same things for the same reasons.
Yeah, right. Yeah, true. That makes sense.
Yeah, massively.
So we're in awareness, isn't it? Becoming more aware of what's actually going on. And well,
there was something else I was going to say. If I look at it, the association I initially had, which is really interesting, is like, and I think you summed it up, we've all got these different anchors or associations. I used the term before. And it's like yours was, and this was mine too, oh, I deserve this. It's like, oh, okay, I deserve this reward, okay, which is, again, dopamine.
Yeah.
So I deserve this. Oh, I've had a big day. I'll just have a drink, right? Or, oh, we're going, it's a wedding. Oh, yeah, we'll have a drink to celebrate, because that's what you do when you celebrate. So we'll just have a champagne or bubbles or whatever it is. Or catching up with buddies. Yeah, I'll have a beer because we're catching up and we're socializing together. For me as well, at night, it was like, oh, I'll just have a wine just to unwind,
Yeah.
Oh, it's a hot day. Oh, God, have a cold beer on a hot day.
Yeah.
So look at all these different kind of associations we've made, where we've made it mean if this is happening, then this equals that. And we've framed it and had it marketed to us in so many different forms that we just accept it.
Yeah.
And this, I look at marketing, I look at the subconscious mind and how it just takes everything in. We're being bombarded every day, particularly now we have cell phones and stuff through social media. And you don't realize that your subconscious is taking all that in. You go past a billboard, and I see heaps of alcohol billboards. And it's got the drink being poured, and it's got some emotive framework
Well,
around it
and the
to
kids
make you
see that too,
associate
right?
deeper to it. Yeah,
So it
totally.
starts from the age of like my little boy is just turned 2, so he probably wouldn't know what's going on. My little girl who's 4 going on 5, she definitely takes all that stuff in. She'll see the billboard and know that that's a beer. She know what a beer
Yeah,
is, right? And
yeah.
so it's just even reinforcing that whole paradigm to the little ones. I'm not saying, oh, we should go and scrap all that marketing. That's not my argument. My point is yeah, what you're saying is it starts young,
Well,
where subliminal,
these
you know.
companies spend shitloads of money
Yeah, yeah.
on this
Mm,
marketing because they
mm.
damn well know what
Yeah,
the
it
power
works.
of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and same in movies, placement in movies. Like I was just saying to
Yes.
somebody the other day with Hollywood
Mate,
movies, man, geez.
that gets me
And
all the time. If I'm watching
yeah,
a movie and I
yeah.
see a nice glass of
Oh,
whiteboard, I'm like, oh,
I'll go get
I don't think I'll go
that.
get a glass of wine.
Yeah, so it's around us, like it is literally
Yeah.
around us in all forms. And
Mm.
so can you see it makes sense
Yeah.
that so many people just
Mm,
want to
mm.
have a drink?
Yeah.
And so if you look at the movie one,
Mm.
and it's the same with cigarettes. It's not so much with cigarettes now because there's been
Yeah.
a shift around all that.
Yeah.
But the whole placement in the 80s, 90s, and
Yeah.
before, like, these tough guys would have a cigarette or have a
Cool to
cigar or
smoke. Yeah.
whatever.
Mm.
And then, yeah, it's cool to smoke. And
Mm.
they'd pay a lot of money to get their brands in these movies for a damn good reason because they
Mm.
know that you're seeing that brand. You may not consciously go, oh, I want that, but it's going into your subconscious. And so, again, be mindful about, start to observe this. Don't just kind of
Mm.
float
Mm.
through, but observe it and look at what you're taking on or seeing when
Mm.
you notice these things and just having this conversation. If you're listening to it, the fact that you're hearing it's going to bring it to your awareness now that you can kind of see it through a different lens,
Mm.
and you'll notice these alcohol billboards, you'll notice these ads, you go, oh, there it is.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so, be careful of what you choose to allow into your psyche,
Mm.
and choose to program yourself with what you want to be programmed with, because whether you
Mm.
like it or not, you're being programmed. You're
Yeah.
either doing it yourself
Wow.
consciously or
Yeah.
you're subconsciously allowing some other company or
Mm.
some other organization with an intention to
Mm.
sell you on their product or service
Mm.
to program you with that. So either
Yeah.
which way it's happening, you might as well consciously do it. And so
Yeah.
I know I've really become aware of all those pieces
Mm.
as well.
Mm.
And look, there'll be areas that I'm not conscious of that I'm still getting that stuff
Mm.
in that
Yeah.
I'm not aware of is happening. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, the society, the movies, these companies have done a very good job at ingraining it in so many ways.
Mm.
And you brought up, your daughter
Mm.
seeing, knowing what a beer was. And it was my son as well. He'd go, oh, Dad, do you want a wine? Or are you having a wine? And I'd be like, oh, and he was like 4. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I could tell that him seeing me drink, what I was
Yeah.
demonstrating to him was
Yeah.
programming him.
Yeah.
Not what I was saying. Like, I can
Yeah.
say whatever I want to the cows come home. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. But then he
Mm.
sees Dad doing it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the doing that they observe, the actions that
Yeah.
then goes into their subconscious. And so,
Mm.
when he asked me about that now, like we went out with some friends the other night for dinner for him. And he's like, I can't remember what he said about having a beer, or, oh, he asked me about smoking. Dad, do you smoke? I was like, of course I don't smoke. It's not good for you. He saw someone smoking.
Mm.
And I said, that's why I also don't drink anymore, because
Mm.
I knew it
Mm.
wasn't good for me. And so I'm just plugging that into him now, because he
Yeah.
observes, for the early years of his life, Dad having
Mm.
a wine or Dad having a beer.
Yeah.
And so I'm really grateful that I'm not demonstrating that to him anymore. I
Mm.
mean, if he
Mm.
chooses to drink when he's older, so be it. If he has to go
Mm.
through what I went through, fine.
Mm.
But I'm just grateful that I'm not part of that
Mm.
demonstration
Mm.
and programming now.
Wow. That's oof. Yeah. That's a whole huge generational cycle, isn't it? If you
Big time.
take it back to that, it's
Yeah,
just
and
the modeling and
if we go to that, it's interesting
yeah,
too,
yeah.
because you can have 2 children
Mm.
brought up in the same household.
Mm.
You could have an alcoholic parent as an example. I
Mm.
mean, the kids both observe it, and you could have both kids go in completely separate, different directions,
Yeah.
all in the way they associate to what they're seeing. One
Yeah.
might go, oh my God, I hated that. I just wouldn't want to do it. And they go the other way because they didn't like what they saw. The other one goes, oh, this was a form of love. This is how my dad was soft or kind to me when he drank or he changed. And they then associate them in that situation is more of a love and a support. And so then they'll
Right.
pick it up because they've associated the experience differently.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, you can have the
Mm.
same children observe the same behavior
Mm.
inside a family unit, but both go different directions. So
Mm.
you just don't know how they're going to attach to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, well, we should wrap on that note. I really like that phrase that you said, basically, which is if you're not choosing to program yourself, or I like to use the garden analogy, plant seeds, the
Yeah.
seeds in your garden that you want to yield the fruit of. So if you want to crop a corn, plant the corn seeds, as you said, if you don't program yourself or you're not aware of it, then you'll be programmed by other, I suppose, agendas or marketing or whatever it is. And I think to me, that's such a powerful statement. It's just that awareness. It sums up that awareness beautifully, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's really important too for those of you that are listening to this. If you listen to this today and you go, I don't care, I like my drink. Cool. Perfect.
Yeah,
If you find it works for you, awesome. Do it. But for those of you that are going, there's something in this for me. I'm resonating with some of this. I'm on that journey. One of the first things I'll say to you too is just make sure you don't shame yourself around it, because if you shame yourself around it, you keep yourself locked in that space, and it's harder to actually move out if you're shaming yourself around it. So just make sense of why you're having a drink or why you're doing it, and get real with yourself as to what's going on, and be okay with that's where you currently are. And once you can do that and make sense of it and understand why you are doing it and where you are, it actually liberates you to then start to make different choices and to start putting different actions or behaviors in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
I mean, that was a great chat, because
was.
and I'm sure this is one we'll probably expand on further at another time too. So, yeah.
Definitely.